that greedy where they would put the Super Bowl on a pay service where you have to have the Super Bowl channel to watch the Super Bowl. I mean, do you think that they would get that cocky that they would do that?
I don't think it would get to that point, but I think, like I said, in 2027, it's on Valentine's Day and it's also President's Day the next day. So I could see them doing like having the Super Bowl on the Sunday before President's Day. So, the country has off on stuff, more parties, or even having the Super Bowl on a Saturday night, Rich. What do you think about that? Saturday night having a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think we spoke about that before. It's like I kind of think like you're going back with something like, whether it's nostalgic to have it on Super Bowl Sunday or convenient to have it on a Saturday. So, I mean, I really don't care either way. It doesn't bother me, but it's like a lot of people just say, they correlate Super Bowl Sunday with Super Bowl Sunday, not Super Bowl. Well, now it's becoming more like Super Bowl weekend, but
yeah,
it's kind of, I don't know. Either way, it wouldn't bother me either way, but I think you might be right. More eyes would be on it, and I don't think more eyes would be on it. I think the Saturday night thing would bring more revenue into like the restaurants and the bars and stuff because more people would go out and watch it, which is fine too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the game on the East Coast, the game ends around 10:30 and stuff. So people have work the next day, so it's a little hard to go out. But yeah, definitely the Saturday would inject more into the restaurant industry and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember as a kid, the Super Bowl started 1:00 in the afternoon. So and like my cousin Joe, who lives in Michigan, was on my Facebook this morning, and he's been to a lot of Super Bowls, a lot of World Series, always gets to these events. So he was at Super Bowl in 1977. He was in the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. Game was played in the Orange Bowl, and he bought a Super Bowl ticket for $34 to see the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys. So I put on Facebook yesterday, the cheapest ticket as of yesterday was $6,000 in Las Vegas.
My wife just told me that yesterday.
Yeah, and there was tickets up with $45,000. So, Rich, do I buy the car or do I go to Super Bowl? Right? What's more important, right?
Now, you know what the thing is about these two teams is. It's really expensive to go to the Super Bowl. Now, these are two teams that are like the Chiefs. They've been there before. They won a lot of games. The 49ers, their franchise. They've been there before. They won a lot of games. Now, if you're somebody, you can't say like, I'm going to pay that $6,000 because I've never seen my team in a Super Bowl. Yeah, but you have, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I think that kind of aspect brings like if the Detroit Lions, for instance, if they went to the Super Bowl, people would be paying top dollar coming from all over the place because they've just never seen it happen. Whereas listen, it generates enough revenue anyway. I'm not saying, but the ticket pricing as it goes is like, whereas that $6,000 ticket, people can maybe second guess, but if they have the money, they'll just do it. Whereas that person that only has they have $7,000 for a Super Bowl weekend. They're like, damn it. It's like, they've been there already. So I may as well buy that car. But whereas you get these real hardcore fans, if I'm a Jet fan and I got $7,000, now I have a family to think about. So, that's the dumb thing to think about. But if I'm a single guy and I got $7,000 and the Jets make it to the Super Bowl and it's 6,000, fuck it, I'll figure out how to make money out there. I'll buy the ticket and I'll go out there and see him. So I think that's the dynamic with the tickets. I don't know if you agree with me.
Well, yeah. And then there's a person who buy the ticket on their credit card and pay the $15 credit card bill for the next 700 years. So that Super Bowl ticket will be paid off in the year 3000, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Or put on layaway or something like that. But yeah, so that's interesting. But we talked about the logistics and everything. Now, what do you think about the game tomorrow, Rich? What's your take?
All right, so we're gonna get into the game. So you're gonna let me kind of like ease into my rant about my least favorite baseball team, which is my favorite baseball team. So
well, do you want to touch on the Mets now, Rich? We could touch on the Mets and the Jets, your two favorites, and then we can.
We'll end our football conversation with the Jets, and now the Jets will definitely parlay into the Mets. So the game tomorrow, Eric. I am.
Just a side note,
tomorrow.
Rich.
Okay.
Just a side note. Thank you for doing that because I'm not quite versed in CPR. So if you're going off on the Jets and the Mets,
no, it's home right now.
Cancel and say bye, Rich.
No, it's actually somebody. Aiden might be just be. He's not still sleeping. Hey, maybe he's still sleeping. Yeah, so there's nobody really home right now to survive to revive me back. But anyway, the football game tomorrow.
Put on Facebook. You're having chest pains and see who answers you and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so last week we made our predictions. Like I think I was still up in the air, and you kind of might still been up in the air too, right? Now I think that right now you're looking at a dynamic with these two football teams. Now these are two great football teams. Okay, now I heard something. I posed this question to you last week. I'm going to pose it to you again in kind of a different way because I was listening to the radio this week, and they were talking about Brock Purdy as a quarterback. Now, They were comparing Brock Purdy, obviously, to Pat Mahomes. Actually, they started comparing Brock Purdy to Pat Mahomes. And then the whole comparison thing was like, Pat Mahomes, nobody's like Pat Mahomes. Okay, so how about we compare? Would we be talking about now the game last week, Detroit against the 49ers? That was the game where we'd be talking about the quarterback and whether they're going to do a good job or whether they're going to bring their team to. So I think all this talk about Brock Purdy maybe just being a mediocre quarterback because he has such great stuff around him, I think is garbage because he still looks poised in the pocket and he's still, and I kind of thought that he was a late bloomer, dude. And I just found out the other day he's 23 years old. Now,
oh, yeah, definitely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You can compare him to Jared Goff, whereas Jared Goff put himself a situation in Detroit where I think, didn't he bring a team to an AFC championship or something like that? But
Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl with the Rams.
Super Bowl.
He lost.
Yes, he went to yes, he did. Okay. Now, Jared Goff and Brock Purdy, to me, are two different quarterbacks because I'm not going to say he is, and I'm not going to say that he won't be, but he kind of reminds me of Joe Montana. Because if you think of Joe Montana back in the day, he didn't have that good of a season, the first season. It was okay the second season. Bill Walsh just clicked with him. You know what I mean? This guy's got Kyle Shanahan. Maybe he's clicking with him, okay? Now, you could say Brock Purdy's a product of having probably – you rattle off 5 players that those 5 players on the same team is kind of like a dream set. You know what I mean? You got Debo, you got the other wide receiver, you got McCaffrey, you got Kittle, you got 2 offensive linemen that are all world, and you put Brock Purdy on that offense and it's like, just like the perfect storm. Whereas I don't think if you put Zach Wilson on that team, it's a perfect storm. I think there's a lot of anger. So when I compared him to, and then you think about Joe Montana as well, Joe Montana, he had Roger Craig, he had arguably the greatest football player / wide receiver ever to catch a football in Jerry Rice. He had a stud offensive line, but there was also a thing with Joe Montana where the decision-making was just spot on and he would just make these throws. But Brock Purdy still has that time to gain that knowledge and make those quick decisions. I think there's too many people right now dismissing Brock Purdy because we see Pat Mahomes as the greatest player. Now, I think that this game is going to come down to if Brock Purdy manages the game and gets his passes off and makes his offense do the work, they could beat Pat Mahomes because Pat Mahomes is going to have to, if his offense is struggling, he's going to have to put that team on his back. He's going to have to rely on Pacheco. He's going to have to rely on a double tight end. Let's just say Chase Young all of a sudden, like, Nick Bosa was reaming him out 2 weeks ago. What do you think now? Chase Young's like, he's having a conversation. He's like, wow, I really have been dogging it. One of the greatest players on the planet was screaming at me on live television a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really not pulling my weight. So now you have to put it where you have Kelsey, who's basically a wide receiver. You got to put another tight end because if Pat Mahomes is running, he's going to beat you. Your linebackers, you have to play. You have to stay for coverage. It's a real weird dynamic where you're going to have a quarterback that could beat an entire team, or you have an offense that could beat an entire team, and 2 decent defenses. Like, to you, what do you think is like the key to both of those teams winning the game? I know I just gave you a lot, Eric, but just, that's I've just been thinking about it all more.
Okay, it's all about the game flow, Rich. So it's to be interesting to see how this game goes. Of course, Pat Mahomes, he can complete a pass with his eyes closed. Right?
We've seen it.
It's crazy. One thing we've seen is the reemergence of Travis Kelce. Now, Travis Kelce has a pretty bad season, came on in the end. So we see Super Bowls over the years, Rich, and we see these trick plays come into play. I wouldn't be surprised tomorrow if you see Travis Kelce throw a touchdown pass. I wouldn't be shocked. And you know what? The odds are out there. It's 35-1. So it's something to put money on too. But, we see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, 4 out of 5 years, Rich? The only team that was able to control the Chiefs was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they really did. They had a good game plan. I know it was the COVID year, but the NFL played the full season of the COVID year. It wasn't like baseball. It was a regular season, and even in the Super Bowl, nobody was really out. The game was played in Tampa, but that was expected to be played in Tampa. It's not the Buccaneers' fault that they're playing on their home field, but still, they only had like 25,000 people, so it wasn't the crowd. But I know the crowd's going to be in the San Francisco 49ers' favor tomorrow. It's easier to get to Las Vegas from San Francisco than it is from Kansas City. Plus, it's the 49ers' first trip there in 4 years. And the 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl since 1994 when Steve Young was their quarterback. And they beat the then San Diego Chargers. And I think the Chargers wasn't even Dan Fouts. It was Humphreys, their quarterback. So the 49er fans are hungry for a win too. It's almost 30 years since they won a Super Bowl. I think what happens tomorrow, I think the pressure gets to Brock Purdy. Now, Brock Purdy, I know he's played in playoff games. He got hurt last year in the championship game. he's got the tools to work with. But if Brock Purdy throws that interception early and the Chiefs take an early lead, it takes that one dimension out of the game. If the Chiefs get ahead by 10, 14 points, you're going to lose that Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy's going to have to throw the ball a lot. And if he keeps throwing the ball a lot, what's to say the Chiefs don't intercept and make more turnovers, basically? The Chiefs have revamped their defense, Rich. The Chiefs are much stronger. In the past, it was Tyreek Hill and Mahomes. Now it's Rice, Mahomes. You got Pacheco. You got Kelsey. It's not quite the tools that Brock Purdy has to work with. I think Brock Purdy's going to make some mistakes right out of the gate, and that's going to change the game flow of this. I'm not going to give my prediction yet, but you see where I'm going, Rich?
Oh, yeah, I do. Of course I do. I agree with you.
I think the Chiefs check all the boxes here. You check the boxes with Mahomes. You check the boxes with Andy Reid over Shanahan. Shanahan's been in the playoffs before. Shanahan hasn't won the big game yet. You check the box with Andy Reid. You check the boxes. The only box I'm not checking, Rich, is the running game. I agree that McCaffrey – look at the MVP, Rich. Do you see the MVP voting this week? Jackson won the MVP. McCaffrey didn't even finish second. You know who finished second in the MVP, Rich? Dak Prescott finished second in the MVP vote. Do you believe that? I can't believe that.
You know why I do, Eric? Because look at the Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett beat out TJ Watt, dude. I mean, come on. That's just logistically it makes no sense.
But Rich, we're talking offense here. I know you always have to give it to a quarterback. Is it a prerequisite? Yeah. You have to give it to a quarterback? Just have quarterback of the year and offensive player of the year. What did McCaffrey do bad this year? I know.
Nothing.
I know. I'm not going to take it away from Jackson. Jackson had four. He had a streak of 5 weeks where he was the best player on the planet, but 5 weeks did not make a season. The season's 17 weeks now. McCaffrey scored a touchdown every week. And, even if you bet tomorrow McCaffrey scoring a touchdown, you win with $1 on your bet, basically. It's not even worth betting on McCaffrey winning a touchdown. It's bound to happen. But, I think the Chiefs experience, Rich, and they beat the 49ers, and a lot of these players have Super Bowl experience. There's 49ers guys that have Super Bowl experience, too, that are probably on the team from 4 years ago. But I just think that the Chiefs are going to win this game, and I think the Chiefs are going to win the game big, Rich. I just don't see Brock Purdy. I think he's got to get his feet wet. He's new to the league. It's a sophomore season. I mean, God
that's
knows.
Not taking anything away from him either. I'm
not taking away from anything. He was the 7th round draft, last pick of the draft. I mean, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady was in the 5th round pick, and look what he did. I think Pat Mahomes is comparison to Terry Bradshaw, to Troy Aikman, to Joe Montana. Even to Tom Brady. I mean, he's not quite there. Brady was the GOAT of all time. People will argue that Montana was the GOAT of all time. I think Brady was the GOAT of all time. But, I think if Mahomes wins tomorrow, he writes his name with these legends, basically. 100%. And the Chiefs have a dynasty going, no doubt about it.
Yes. And I think that when you look at the way he's been playing over the last couple of years, and he's progressively just been getting better. He won an MVP in his second year in the league. And now he's just still been progressively getting better because I really do think that that your playoff performances really has to come into play when you're playing for an MVP against, or you're going head up for an MVP. Because if you really want to talk about MVP, Pat Mahomes looked in Lamar Jackson's eyes and says, "Nah, I'm the MVP of this league." And I think that got to Lamar Jackson where a point says he looks at Pat Mahomes for somebody that he wants to be. Now, I mean that by saying, because I don't think if Lamar Jackson wins the MVP this year, Pat Mahomes is like, shit, maybe, I got to look at that guy. Maybe I got to change my game. No, I think even though Lamar Jackson wins the MVP, he needs to still look at Pat Mahomes and say, I am still working on my craft. And there's still things that I need to do. Yes, I got the MVP because nobody could catch me running, but nobody could catch him either. And he stops on a dime and dumps a 10-yarder or a 70-yarder. It doesn't matter, and puts it right in people's hands. This guy does stuff that nobody else on the planet does, dude. And I'm telling you, I don't care if Lamar Jackson gets that. Listen, deserving, like you said, he was the best player on the planet for a couple of weeks. Okay. Pat Mahomes has consistently been the best player in football since 2018. Okay?
Rich, you know what his record is as a quarterback? He's got 88 wins and 25 losses as a quarterback.
That's almost impossible.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And they lost to the Lions on week 1. Remember, way back in September, they lost to the Lions on that Thursday night game. And what were we all saying, Rich? Oh, Pat Mahomes sucks this year. And what does Pat Mahomes do? He gives you the royal FU when he gets back to the Super Bowl, basically, right?
No, you got it. And then we realize it. We don't sometimes. You don't sometimes. You think about our teams. We just literally think our teams are going to win every single week. we also forget to realize that we're like, oh my God, they should win this game. They're playing the so-and-so. They've only won 2 games this year. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You have the game plan. You're playing against men who don't want to lose. So I don't give a shit if that year when the Lions were 0-15 and they were just saying that they were going to be, defeated or undefeated, those guys still went out there because they were men with pride. They didn't want to, get their pride hurt. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like these guys want to win all the time. And it's like, and it sucks. It's so easy for us to say like this one's the best or that one's the best. But look at the guy that just on a daily and yearly basis, he just progressively gets better. How does he get better? You just see little things that he did last year really good, and you don't think that he could get any better. Like those little throws, Eric, that he's done. Like I love Pat Mahomes, so I watch a lot of stuff that he does. Those little alley-oop hoop passes that he's been throwing to Travis Kelce, those are not lucky passes, dude. That is them messing around in the locker room with a basketball even or a football saying, put your arms out one time. I'm just going to put it right there. He did that to people for like 10 times to defenses. They didn't even see it coming. You're like, it looks like he's just kind of falling. And he's like, oh, it's a bad pass. No, he meant to do that. And it was right in the guy's hands.
Right.
It's unbelievable the stuff he does.
And Rich, there's times where he's looking downfield and he'll just throw the ball to his left and he'll throw it to a receiver. So he's not even looking where he's throwing and he's throwing the ball and he's completing a pass.
And he's hitting these guys 80 yards down the field at the goddamn numbers, dude. You see him like, oh, is it going to be a Hail Mary? No, there's a guy that's got one step on so-and-so, and he's got an 80-yard bomb that he drops right in his hands for a touchdown.
Yep, it's a sixth sense, basically.
Stuff that's just unbelievable to me. And anybody that hates on him, and I guess we all get caught up on the hating on the team that's doing best or whatever. You can't, because there's nothing he does wrong on the football field. They're allowed to lose a game here and there. Even if he loses the Super Bowl tomorrow, it's because the fucking defense of the 49ers got back to being the 49ers defense. And that's the only way. If for the 49ers to win this football game tomorrow, they're going to, if the offense is both on hitting on both going on all circuits, it's going to be a back and forth. The defense is where this game is going to be won. If the defense could contain Mahomes and put him on a part of the field where he can't throw, then they're going to win. But if not, you have to be in pursuit of him all day. Even if he gets away, you got to knock him down. You got to pursue him. You got to put your hands up and bat the ball down. But you know what? We've seen him. You got your hands up. He has those little shuffle passes like he's throwing the ball to second place for a double play. The guy's amazing, bro. It's so hard to game plan against him. Kyle Shanahan is really good. And you're also looking at somebody on the defensive ball in the Chiefs too, where, yes, they have amazing talent on that other side of the ball, but you also have an amazing defensive mind running that defensive organization, Spagnuolo.
Yeah, and the Chiefs' defense has shut down opponents in the second half, Rich. I mean, I've seen the numbers. I mean, look, they gave it the garbage touchdown to Baltimore, which was like, Baltimore wasn't coming back. We know that. But they've been shutting them down. The over-unders, I mean, the Chiefs have been, they're like almost undefeated with the unders in the second half all season. So the defense clamps down in the second half. I think this game can go under too. I mean, we might not see the track meet that we want to see. I mean, people watch football once a year, so they want to see a lot of scoring, but it might not be the game. I mean, sometimes these teams dance in the first half. Maybe they don't even score, or maybe it's a 3-0, a 6-0, 10-7 halftime, and then things open up. And say it might not be like that this year, Rich. We might see a battle of defense. We might see running game. We might see Pacheco wanted to keep Purdy off the field, and McCaffrey wanted to keep Mahomes off the field. I mean, but look at this, Rich. If somebody like Deebo Samuel was on the Chiefs, can you imagine the Chiefs would have been double-digit favorites instead of underdogs as they are right now by 2 points to the 49ers?
Could you imagine that Can you imagine that combination?
Crazy.
Even go back to the fact, well, why did Tyreek Hill leave? Can you imagine Tyreek Hill was still there?
Oh my goodness! It would
literally be in the huddle, just going, all right, Tyreek, you just go long. I'm going to put it up. Just beat the guy. Beat 2 guys that are covering you. It's easy.
And not only that, hand the ball off to Tyreek Hill on the end around, and he takes it 30 yards or something like that. He's such a dimensional player and stuff. But, we see the trick plays in the Super Bowl, Rich. Who knows? Maybe Travis Kelce gets a couple of rushes tomorrow. You don't know. Like I said, Kelce is going to throw a pass. You heard it here first. Go make some money and pay off your houses, everyone.
Sure, why not? I'll throw $5 down on it, see what happens.
But
fun on Super Bowl Sunday.
Like I said, Rich, the one thing that really this concerns me about the 49ers is that 3-game stretch with Brock Purdy had. It was against Cleveland, Minnesota, 2 road games, and then they came home against Cincinnati, 3 losses in a row, and he looked pretty crappy. And then the word came out around the NFL, is Brock Purdy for real? So the kid can win the Super Bowl tomorrow, and there'll still be questions on Brock Purdy. So, I think he's getting his feet wet and stuff, and he wins the Super Bowl tomorrow. I really think we have to put him in that status, basically, of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
He should have probably been the Super Bowl winning quarterback last year.
Yeah, he got hurt in that Philly game, and the backup got hurt, and wasn't McCaffrey the quarterback in that game in Philadelphia or something like that?
Yeah, I don't even remember. And you know what's going to drive me? You know what? It's going to drive me absolutely bonkers if the 49ers do win is Sam Darnold's going to get a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, and hey, wouldn't it be ironic tomorrow if the Chiefs are up like 48-10 and Darnold's in there running out the back? They wouldn't get in the Super Bowl, but yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, and they're down by like 20 points going into the fourth quarter, and Sam Darnold comes through with the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history, and the 49ers win the Super Bowl, and they're carrying Sam Darnold off the field like he just threw a 40-yard touchdown pass to somebody at USC, and he wins the Super Bowl, and that's what he's going to be known for. I would be sick to my stomach.
Yeah, imagine if Mahomes gets one of his high ankle sprains, which you've seen before in the playoffs, comes back and plays, whatever. But can you imagine in the interim of him going off the field, going in the tent, coming back to play, that Sam Darnold throws a bomb to Rice or something like that, and and the Chiefs win the game because of that or something.
Listen, I think personally, Kelsey's going to have his Kelsey game, but this kid Rice is going to have a big game tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, and Pacheco too. I think Pacheco could have 2 touchdowns as well. Like I said, the whole game plan is time management. It's keeping the other team off the field. So maybe Pacheco, he gets the yards after a run too. He just, he sometimes will get stopped, but he'll take another 10 yards down the field. So so Pacheco might be a factor too tomorrow, the running game.
I'm so torn with who I want to win this game because I know, and what is good is I personally think it's going to be a good football game. I'm so torn because my whole life, like I like the 49ers. And again, listen, you could say that you're rooting for a team as long as it's not your favorite team. You could be a Fugazi fan of any team. Like the Jets suck, so I could take on any team as my Fugazi fandom team. So like I said, I like the 49ers, but I like Mahomes. I could be kind of like a basketball fan now that my team sucks, So I would love it. Like I really want to see Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs win a Super Bowl tomorrow because of Pat Mahomes. And he really not that he's not ever going to be spoken into the same as Tom Brady and Joe Montana, but I want him to get all these accolades early, man. It's because you never know what happens. Like right now, I think he's one of the top 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time, just in agility and just being able to play the position. So, but then I turn around and it's like, oh my God, what if McCaffrey just says I'm just going to put it onto a different, I'm going to have a 7th gear, or a 6th gear. It's like, I'm just going to run over everybody. Or Debo says, just give me the ball and I'm just going to make it. There's so many factors on both sides of the ball there that could contribute to a win or a loss. So, and I think the team that has the most work tomorrow for me, is the San Francisco 49ers defensive line. They are the part of the game, of the scheme, that if that works really well, then the 49ers, I think, could win because Brock Purdy could keep up with the back and forth. But if their defensive line is not working, then you got to start rushing linebackers, and then you're rushing linebackers, and all of a sudden Travis Kelce is open, 60 yards down the field, or you're dumping the ball off to Pacheco because the linebackers are rushing the quarterback because they can't get to him. So it's all kind of it's all got to fall into place, I think, for the San Francisco 49ers defense. Because I think their offense will play well, but I think their defense has to play well in order for them to win. That's my prediction.
And then the kicking game too, Rich. Harrison Butker has been lights out. Where's the 49ers kicker? Rookie, he's been a little off lately. So, like I said before, it's football. A lot of games are won and lost by the foot. Except if you're Dan Campbell, he doesn't use the foot with Detroit. But yeah, analytics. That's it. One thing about analytics, Rich. So at work this week, you have those box pools and stuff like that. So a guy says he got a 0-0. So a 0-0 means nothing today than it used to mean, because analytics, 2-point conversions, guys hitting the extra points off the post, not making them. There's a lot of weird scores of Super Bowls lately. So if you have a 0-0, wouldn't be gloating about it or anything anymore. You
Oh
know?
yeah. Oh, with the boxes and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
yeah. I didn't get any. I didn't get any
And
boxes.
and then one more thing, Rich. Right now in Tokyo, Taylor Swift is on stage. The big question is, will she make it back to Las Vegas for tomorrow? And will Travis Kelce propose to her as he's winning the MVP trophy for the Super Bowl tomorrow night?
I,
You know,
you
the
know what?
NFL wants that. The NFL wants that.
Listen. Let me tell you something right now. I got to be honest with you about this right now. The whole world wants to know if she's going to make it to the game on time, or is he going to blow a kiss to her? You know who probably doesn't even care about that right now is the two of them. Because I got to be honest, if they're normal, if they're really they're not normal, but I just think with the way normal people think, as two very, very successful people, okay? Taylor Swift is right now thinking about performing in front of, on top of the stadium, millions of people. Travis Kelce is getting ready for tomorrow to perform against millions of people. The fact that either one of them would have the balls to say, you better get to my event is just not, it's not in people's regular, the way they talk. If they're a normal couple, it's like, babe, I'm gonna try, but I'm gonna be shot. I'll be in Tokyo. It's not like I'm in Colorado. If I was in Colorado, I'd have a limo, bang, I'd be there. But I'm in Tokyo. It's like, wouldn't you rather I just sit there, get a pedicure, and watch you win the Super Bowl? And I guarantee those are the real conversations that are going on. Not all the speculation is if she's going to get an Uber and if she's going to fly with golden wings onto the fucking stadium. It's like, in real people talk, they had this conversation already. Just like the fact that they had the real conversation about the Grammys last week. They had the real conversation. And Travis Kelce being a guy is probably like, babe, I'm only over here waiting for the Super Bowl. I could probably get there if I need to. And she's like, listen, you're preparing for the Super Bowl. You do not have to come to the Grammys. I mean, I have 9,000 of them. I'm not like I'm getting my first Grammy, So it's like kind of like people love to speculate the conversation. If anybody thinks either one of those things, what I just told you is 100% what happened between the two of them. Although, are they going to laugh about all this speculation afterwards? Yes. But right now, it's like, just come on, let me win the Super Bowl and let me perform in front of the entire country. So it's kind of like if they're normal people, nobody's balls are getting in the panties are getting an uproar if the one doesn't make their event. Did I explain that correctly? Do you think?
Yeah, but did Travis